Hey there, I'm Danielle D'Onofrio. Welcome back to the Danielle D'Onofrio Daily Podcast. Today we are talking all about codependency. We're going to talk about why it's a common wound that comes with surviving a dysfunctional family system and childhood trauma, and why boundaries are a really powerful antidote to codependency, and how they can really be a pathway out of codependency to healthier relationships and an overall more vibrant life. Okay, so if you're new here, again, this is a daily podcast, and I come to you every single day with what I'm thinking about, stories from my life, just questions and ideas that pop up into my head, and it's my opportunity to connect with my community. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell so you stay alerted when I release new videos. And if the content is helpful, I'd love for you to hit that thumbs up, leave a comment down below. And I will definitely get back to you because, again, this is all about connection and, helping each other out along that journey through healing and personal development. So I want to talk about codependency today because what I've realized throughout the course of my own journey and connecting with other people who have been on a similar journey and listening to podcasts and reading books and really just diving into all of the research, doing my own, trainings and certifications and things like that. Codependency is always a sort of golden thread that weaves through all of this work. And really what codependency is, in my own words, right? Everyone's going to give you sort of a different definition, but really what codependency is, in my own words, is when our identity starts to blend with the identity of other people. When we don't really have boundaries around who we don't really have any definition to who we are without the input and fulfillment and interactions with other people. So we just don't stand on sturdy ground when it comes to knowing who we are, being okay with who we are, knowing it's okay to not fulfill everybody's needs and to say yes to everything and to let everybody sort of take advantage of us and say whatever they want. We just don't have a sense of self. It's almost like think of a visual representation of who you are, and then imagine that it's just sort of blurred at the edges, right? And in order for you to sort of stay intact, to feel safe and to feel like you can survive, you need the input of a lot of different people around you. You need to know that their moods are okay. You need to know that they approve of you. You need to know that you're meeting expectations. You need to know that your choices and your thoughts and beliefs are validated. And you need to make sure that you're sort of in good standing with everyone. If someone doesn't agree with you, you immediately don't agree with you, right? You don't trust yourself in the absence of everyone else telling you to trust yourself, right? And you don't have boundaries because boundaries disappoint or inconvenience people other than you, okay? And I'm sure we can go on and on with that list, but essentially it's all of those things. And one of the reasons that we start to develop codependency when we've survived difficult circumstances, especially during childhood, is because it's a survival mechanism, a defense mechanism. It's something that we do out of fear of abandonment, out of fear of those feelings of shame, to try to avoid being hurt. It's a survival mechanism. And really, much of what we're healing on the journey when we're trying to, resolve our past and create a more vibrant life because we have been struggling is we want to go from living in survival, right? Because survival, it may have helped us to survive as children, but then when we bring those survival tactics into adulthood, it prevents us from thriving because in adulthood, we have to learn to be conscious, independent people who have boundaries and who can act with our own free agency to create a life that we love, right? And especially, life really is all about the relationships that we have with other people, and a codependent relationship isn't a healthy relationship, right? With, friends or family, your children, spouses, we really want to have healthy relationships to live a happy, peaceful, vibrant life, right? So healing that codependency wound is really important, and it's multi-dimensional, right? Now, I think, what you'll find as you go through your journey is that codependency is at the root of many of your struggles. And healing it can feel complicated. But what I discovered on my journey was that learning how to set boundaries is actually a very powerful antidote to codependency for a number of reasons. I talk about this in depth in my book, The Rehab for Everyone: Lifestyle Approach to Healing and Personal Development, which it's not ready yet. It will be released later this year. You can get a primer to that methodology in my free ebook. I'll include a link in the description below, so you can go ahead and request that, and I'll send it. It'll automatically get sent to your email, and you'll get a copy of that to take a look. But boundaries is the first pillar of my methodology, and it's definitely the most robust. But the reason why boundaries are a powerful antidote to codependency is because it really forces us to, number one, think about what we need to feel safe and secure and nurtured as an individual person. Sometimes before the journey begins and we're in that survival state and we're stressed and we're full of shame and we have no inner peace, we don't even have the consciousness to stop and say, what do I need to be happy and peaceful? What do I need to create a protected and nurturing space for my journey? Like, what do I want? What am I going to tolerate here, right? What kind of people do I want to be in relationship with? What kind of behaviors really don't make me feel great, right? We don't even think to ask ourselves those questions most of the time when we're early or before we've begun the journey. And so once we start to, get onto the journey and we start to think about boundaries, we start to ask ourselves those questions. Right? And I teach you how to do that in my methodology. And there are many books on boundaries also, and podcasts. There's there's an abundance of information out there about boundaries, but we don't even think about them until we have to think about them, right? Until we reach a point where we're like, something has got to change. I can't keep living like this. I've got to set some boundaries here, or I've got, something has to change, and you start to crack open your first personal development or healing books, and like one of the first things, everyone always talks about is setting boundaries, right? Okay, so then we start thinking about it. We start asking ourselves those questions. Immediately, you are on the path to healing codependency once you start asking yourself those questions. Other questions might include, who am I? What am I interested in? Like, what do I want to be doing right now? What do I want to say yes to? What do I want to say no to? Right? All of these things that bring the focus back to you and your authentic self, right? And it may be that you have tons of layers. If you have not yet begun the journey or you're very early on, it's very likely that you have tons of defense mechanisms and survival tactics and all of the woundedness. It's covering the authentic self. It's just layers. Those are the layers, right, that we work to peel back on the journey. But once you start to ask yourself questions, you're starting to direct your focus inward toward your authentic self, right? And the second you start to ask yourself questions, that's when you start to get answers. They're going to push their way through those layers right to your consciousness so that you can start to answer them for yourself. So that's the first thing, is starting to ask yourself questions about what you want and need. Like, that starts to give definition. It starts to give like literal boundaries to who am I versus who are you. I am a unique, separate individual. We're all connected, right? There's connectedness, but I am an individual within this connectedness. You are an individual within this connectedness. I have what I want and need. You have what you want and need, and we can be in healthy relationship with each other, right? And that's with all of your relationships. Codependency, if you have struggled with codependency, it's never going to be in one relationship. It's going to be throughout all of your relationships, most likely. And if you meet somebody who doesn't struggle with codependency and they have, more healthier habits in their relationships, most likely they're not going to be attracted right now to forming friendship with you, because the codependent nature is a much different vibration than a healthy, functional, relationship nature. And we're going to fix that. So don't even worry about it. Like, we all go through that. Whenever you meet people, you're going to be attracted to people who are on a similar or complementary vibrational plane as you. And that's just the laws of the universe, law of attraction. That's just how it works. So as you heal and grow, you're going to attract other people who are healthier and more functional, as you become healthier and more functional. And that's one of the reasons why we heal and grow, is because we want to be in relationship with other happy, healthy, peaceful people. And also what that means is that a lot of the people currently in your life will likely fall away as you move up that emotional guidance scale, which we're not going to cover in this video, but it's really as you raise your vibration. People who aren't raising their vibration and on the journey with you, they'll fall away because you'll no longer, be attracting each other, right? And you won't be a match. And as you raise your vibration, you'll become a match for other people. That's just how it works. Okay, so we covered, the first part, asking yourself questions and really becoming introspective and having enough self-respect to consider what you want and need. Okay, and then in order to actually start applying boundaries in your life, you have to learn to speak up for what you want and need. You have to take all of those reflections, right? And you have to verbalize them, or you have to express them in some way so that that's your only way of communicating with the people around you, to let them know what you want, need, and won't tolerate anymore, right? And we can't, again, this is not going to be a course on boundaries right now, but we can never control the behavior of other people, but we can let people know. We can say yes or no to people. We can let them know what we will or will not tolerate any longer. And then if they choose not to respect those boundaries, then we have another choice to make, right? So that's number 2, is speaking up. When you start to learn to speak up for yourself, right, and express your truth and your authentic needs, that is step 2 to moving you along the path of healing codependency. Okay, and that is, I think asking yourself the questions is probably the easiest part, and that's why it's the first step. And it's going to take everyone a different amount of time. It took me, a few years to really get comfortable and secure in my ability to set boundaries, because it's scary, when you grow up and spend most of your life. For me, it was like all the way, at least through my 20s and into my early 30s, that I had no practice decided, no consideration for boundaries at all. And it was really once I started my healing journey that I started learning about boundaries. But now having to express the boundaries, that it can be challenging for people with histories like ours, because it means that there's going to most likely be disagreement with us. We might be disappointing other people. We are going to probably not be meeting people's demands and expectations, to the same degree or at all anymore, right? We're probably not going to be showing up to all of the same functions and occasions and events. And we may even be ending certain relationships. And that is going to cause a little bit of turmoil, okay? When you've spent a lot of your life just constantly trying to calm the waters, keep the peace, make sure everyone's happy, make sure no one's upset with you, make sure the moods around you are stable. When you've spent your whole life doing that, your first experiences with setting boundaries are actually going to feel terrifying. They are going to feel so scary, right? Because also along with codependency, another wound, those of us who have survived dysfunctional circumstances in childhood, another wound that we struggle with is abandonment, the abandonment wound, okay? And if, you're setting boundaries and people are walking away or people are getting upset with you, now that's going to start triggering the abandonment wound, okay? And then we have to address the abandonment wound, which, that's a whole nother topic for another video. But there are absolutely ways to do that. And this is why we talk about layers when it comes to the journey, is because with each new step we take, we're going to be triggering another wound. We have to assess what's showing up, and we have to learn the practices and the mindset principles that allow us to cope while we're healing those wounds. Okay, but this is all about learning about ourselves. There's no shame, there's no judgment. And you have to learn not to judge yourself too on this journey, because again, in learning about yourself, you're going to learn that a lot of the behaviors and a lot of the beliefs that you have right now are not serving you, right? And we have to replace those beliefs and behaviors to truer beliefs and more functional behaviors so that you can create a life that you love. Okay, and again, creating a life that you love is definitely going to require healing that codependency wound, and it takes time. All of this takes time, none of it happens overnight. However, you will find that as you start to employ certain principles and practices, you may see overnight just this epiphany or realization that, wow, this is how I've been doing things and this just isn't working. Or I get it now. I feel it in my body that that way wasn't working and I can do this moving forward. And really what it comes down to is being more in alignment with who you are, with your authenticity, and knowing that you are okay, no matter how the people around you are responding or behaving. You are okay existing in the full essence of who you are with your own full agency to live a life that you want. It's really the most beautiful journey, and it's so exciting, and it can be scary in the beginning because like I said, we have to start dropping those defense mechanisms and the survival tactics that make us feel safe, but are actually making us suffer, right? So it's a good thing to be dropping those layers, but it is going to be a little bit uncomfortable at first. And like I talk about in almost every video, we have to be willing to get uncomfortable on the journey, or for any type of growth, any type of self-improvement. When you're chasing your dreams or achieving goals or really just looking to grow as a person and to do better and feel better, we are always looking to step a little bit more outside our comfort zone, because that's where it all happens. That's where the magic happens, is outside our comfort zone. If we're sitting here comfortable in our little sphere, protective sphere that we've created for ourselves over the years, we're really just continuing along the steps that are keeping us in the circumstances that we want to get out of, right? So that doesn't work. So we talked a little bit about codependency today. We talked about how boundaries are, the antidote for that, just, to an introductory level. We'll get into that a lot more in the book. And like I said, definitely download my free ebook, which is in the description below. You can get a little bit deeper into my methodology, which is called REHAB for Everyone. The 4 pillars of that methodology are boundaries, movement, exploration, and energetic self-care. And I think that wraps it up for today. You can head over to my website. Again, there's all kinds of links down below. I do offer coaching, and I have tons of videos and free resources. So look around, explore my content, and I will be back with you tomorrow for this daily podcast. So if this content was helpful, again, I'd love for you to hit that thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you get alerted when these videos get posted every day. And I will catch you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.